My name is Paul Homert. I'm the laboratory director at Sandia National Laboratories. I want to thank you all for coming out here this morning. We're going to talk about some exciting things with respect to our city and the technology base of our city. But I have to point out to you what we all maybe take for granted is that today is a great example of one of the unique benefits and distinguishing characteristics of our city, the fabulous weather the day before the balloon fiesta, so we shouldn't forget about that distinguishing characteristic of the environment we're all fortunate to work and live in. Let's see, we're going to talk here today about a concept we're moving forward to strengthen technology transfer, job creation, and the like in the city from a Sandia Laboratories perspective. But first, let me introduce our guests here. Obviously, Mayor Berry here from UNM, Lisa Kutula, and both the mayor and Lisa will talk with you here in a moment. I also want to acknowledge Bill Waldman here from Senator Udall's office, Katie Richardson from Senator Heinrich's office. We have Gilbert Gallegos from Michelle Lujan Grisham, Congresswoman Michelle Lujan Grisham's office. Patrick Duran from Congressman Ben Ray Lujan's office. Barbara Romero from, Barbara, yes, from Congressman Pierce's office. Barbara Brazil, Deputy Secretary of New Mexico Economic Development, is here as well. And then from the Technology Ventures Corporation, John Freisinger. Good morning, John. So again, thank you all for joining us here this morning. One of the things that I really want to focus on to begin with is, as you well know, Sandia has a very broad national security mission. Whether on one hand it is the work we do that supports our nation's nuclear deterrent from a standpoint of safety, security, and effectiveness, all the way to cutting-edge research in energy and the biosciences. All of that work that we do on behalf of our country only happens because it rests on a very strong foundation of scientific innovation, unique capabilities, a dedicated workforce. We've known throughout the years that those attributes lend themselves to broader technology transfer, intellectual property, and economic impact. And we're very, very proud of our track record in that regard, whether that be working with major corporations in the United States, such as Goodyear, General Electric, whether it be working with New Mexico small businesses through the New Mexico Small Business Association, whether it's startups that we see here in the Science and Technology Park, and of course collaboration with the major research universities in the United States, and in particular we'll call out UNM in that regard. So we have a great track record, but the world we live in today keeps raising the bar on what it takes to be competitive. And that's true in the area of technology transfer and intellectual property management as well as any other area. So the last 3 or 4 years, we've been pursuing a very deliberate strategy to raise our game in that regard. And that begins first, that strategy has 3 basic pillars. The first of which for us is our internal processes, the way in which we approach licensing and patenting and changes of the patent law. I won't go into those details, but I can just say that in the last year alone, we've increased our patents by 20%, our licensing by 35%, our CRADA activities by nearly 30 million. All of these result of our internal work to strengthen these core processes. The second component for us is partnership. And we've had a terrific evidence in the last year of examples of partnership. We've signed an MOU, renewed our MOU with the city to work collaboratively on joint shared goals, including economic development. Our continuing and deepening relationship that we have with the University of New Mexico, as evidenced in a number of ways. For example, our recent joint appointment of world-renowned material scientist Fernando Garzon, and also some joint IP that we've licensed recently in a number of critical areas. And we look to deepen that through our collaboration further. The third pillar of this strategy is what we're here to talk about today. And that is to increase the presence and accessibility of our laboratory to an environment that creates more interaction of our scientists with the private sector, whether it's at the startup level, whether it's a university collaboration, whether it's a larger company entity, etc. And we're very fortunate that as we've thought about this concept that we call a Center for Collaboration and Commercialization, in parallel, both the city and the university have been working to strengthen their concepts for this going forward. whether that is the Innovation District that the mayor has talked about, it's Innovate ABQ that President Frank and Lisa can talk about. And we see this Center for Collaboration and Commercialization as an extension of that here on the eastern end of this corridor. So let me talk a little bit about what we mean by that concept. Basically, we're looking to expand Sandia's front door. You know, we greatly benefit in our national security missions from our presence on Kirtland Air Force Base. It's a very important enabler for us, and we value it significantly. But it isn't always the most open environment and accessible environment that underpins what we're talking about here today. So we feel like we want to expand the presence that we have in the Science and Technology Park by being in a close partnership with the private sector to develop a facility in which we would be an anchor tenant along with other tenants and partner organizations, whether that be from the city, from the university, technology, venture corporation, etc., and to create this energizing, exciting and inspiring environment that's all about the fundamentals of moving technology out of our laboratory into the private sector. That can have various components that we can look at in that, whether that's institutional planning, licensing support, small business activities, detailed development of technology, commercialization plans, etc. We think that that's an important step forward. It's very much consistent with a number of reports that have come out recently about the importance of creating a greater accessibility and openness to our national laboratory system. And we're uniquely positioned here as being, many of our laboratories are not as accessible to a major city environment as we are. And we want to take advantage of that very much. So we envision working closely with UNM, with the city, and with the private sector to realize a physical presence outside of the base in the Sandia Science and Technology Park that allows us to create this environment that I'm talking about. And I see it as very much consistent with the thrust of the Innovation District, the thrust of Innovate ABQ, and we're very excited about the prospects that this can do. And it builds off these other fundamentals that I talked about in terms of strengthening our overall efforts in technology partnership, intellectual property management going forward. So we're very excited to have that today. By our announcement today, it marks what will begin a concerted effort to take the concept into reality over the next several years in partnership with, as I've said, the private sector and the city and UNM. So with that, I'm going to stop, and we'll have an opportunity for questions here shortly. And I'm going to turn it over and ask Mayor Berry to make some comments, and then Elisa as well. So, Mayor, thank you.
Good morning.
Good morning.
I want to start by thanking Paul, who I consider a good personal friend, not just a great leader in our community. I had a chance a couple of weekends ago to come out to Sandia for their family day. And even though I'm not an employee at Sandia Labs, I got a chance to walk around the campus with moms and dads and their kids who look like they're going to be the next great generation of scientists, by the way, and really see some of the great facilities here. And in my career, I got a chance to work on base quite a bit, and so I already knew about Sandia, but I got a chance to see the Z machine and some of the things that are going on here. And the thing that makes Sandia so special for Albuquerque certainly is the science that happens there, and the national defense, and the great work that happens. But what also makes Sandia great is the fact that the folks that work at Sandia National Laboratories are also out in our communities every day, just doing great things. They're part of our, they're Little League coaches, they're tutors at the schools, they're members of their church board. I mean, it's just really a wonderful thing. So Paul, thank you for what Sandia National Laboratories does here. Every time I get a chance to go to Washington, talk to NNSA or anyone at DOE, I make sure that I echo that. So thank you so much. This is exciting. I tell you what, if you had to start from scratch as a city and talk about the trajectory of your economy and talk about the world economy that we live in, and talk about the trends that are happening economically, not just in Albuquerque, not just in New Mexico, not just in the United States, but around the world, and you had an opportunity to draft team members onto your team to build a world-class effort, you would be thrilled to be able to draft someone like Sandia National Laboratories and the capabilities that they bring. AFRL, the University of New Mexico, a flagship research university, a private sector like we have in Albuquerque, someone like John Freisinger, TVC, Jackie Kirby Moore and Sherman, and what's happening at the Sandia Science and Technology Park. We got some great homes here. Thank you so much. Some great local entrepreneurs. Folks like Gary Opedal and Deirdre Firth at our Economic Development Department who understand what it looks like to commercialize research and who've actually done it on a day-to-day basis. And that's what we're doing here. So as we start looking at the work that's been going on from the Innovation District downtown to this C3 initiative that Paul talked about today, we should be very, very excited. These assets have been here for a long time. The city's been here for 300 plus years. Sandia's been here for a long time. The university's been here for a long time. But I think one of the differences today is that we have a group of leaders that I am just humbled to be able to work with that really do understand that if we're going to achieve everything that we want to achieve in our city, we have to do more collaboration. And we just, we've got a legislature and a governor who are working to make us more business friendly. We've got Gary and AED out there fighting to bring in manufacturing jobs. So all of this is coming together at a time where I think we're going to look back and really realize that these collaborations that are being put together today were a real pivotal point in the history of our city. And of course, we're also doing work here that benefits those not just in Albuquerque, but like I said, all over the world. So I'm just really, I'm really thrilled about what's happening here. Paul, once again, Sandia National Laboratories is already an award-winning technology transfer organization. They were last year. I forget the name of the award, Paul. What was the?
You mean the lab director of the year?
Yeah, that's the one I mean. Yeah, that's the one I was thinking of.
Forget that.
The lab director of the year. I wanted to hear him say it. Anyway, we're fortunate and we're blessed to have all these resources here, and the fact that we're taking good care to make sure that we're leveraging those for the good of the people that we serve. Is really a wonderful thing. So thank you for having me here. And Lisa Kudla and the work that she and Bob Frank are doing downtown with us is really going to be a game changer for downtown as well. So we will continue to do what we can do as government, as local government. Most of you know that there was a lot of effort and dollars put into creating the infrastructure here on Eubank to make a lot of this happen from the standpoint of connectivity. We are working on a new internet backbone that runs from Tramway all the way to 118th Street, that runs right through the core of our downtown, right next to the university, right through the university. We are in the planning stages for bus rapid transit, so that regardless of where C3 goes, whether it's right outside of this building or in this vicinity or wherever it happens to be, we can connect people through the next advanced stage of public transportation in our city. We'll just keep pushing and pushing and pushing. We'll try things. Some things will work fantastic. Some things we'll pivot and try something a little bit different. But we've got the leadership in our city, in the private sector, and I see a lot of you out there in the public sector and in the philanthropic sector as well, with our folks from Living Cities and people that we're working with to try to help those in our community that aren't scientists to be more economically mobile as well. So there's a lot going on, and I'm just really proud and humbled to be a small part of it. So Paul, thank you for having me come out today, and congratulations on your announcement. And we look forward to continuing our collaboration with Sandia National Laboratories and UNM. Thanks.
Thank you.
So in a moment here, I'll ask Lisa to come up and make a few comments, but let me just try to put our relationship with UNM in its broadest perspective. In the last 5 years, to execute our core missions at the laboratory, we've brought 3,500 new employees to the institution. And fundamental to that, and the single biggest component of that at the master's degree level in science and engineering, is the University of New Mexico. They are fundamentally important to our success. I believe we've strengthened in a number of ways that I talked about before that partnership. And we want that to extend to the arena of technology transfer and intellectual property management. And we're very, very supportive of those concepts. And I've talked to President Frank a number of times about that. And we see our announcement here today as very much all of us pulling the oars in the same direction. So from that, I'll ask Lisa to make a comment from the UNM perspective. Lisa?
Thank you, Paul. I think that kind of sums it up. My remarks are over. No, I'm just kidding. I'm happy to be here today representing the University of New Mexico and STC.UNM. We very much appreciate the opportunity to participate in the announcement of this new partnership initiative. UNM and Sandia have been collaborating for many years in our many research relationships, which have led to a number of commercial outcomes already. We hold over 150 jointly owned inventions, which have resulted from collaborative research. To name just a couple of examples of companies based on that collaborative research, the first is NanoMR, based here in Albuquerque, from technology at UNM's Health Sciences Center, Sandia, as well as a local company. NanoMR has a system for rapid isolation of rare cells from complex matrices at very low levels. A second example, which you may have read about this past year, Alpine Bio, was recently acquired by a publicly traded company, Oncotherion, and is based on technology from UNM's Department of Chemical Engineering, UNM's Cancer Center, and Sandia. And that company is developing treatments for cancer and rare diseases based on the unique stability, targeting, and safety characteristics of a protocell technology. In addition, UNM and Sandia have 3 joint faculty research appointees and are actively pursuing additional hires to strengthen the research partnership. This valuable research pipeline feeds our community's goals of creating our greater ecosystem here in Albuquerque. UNM is now actively working with the city towards the creation of a new district where Albuquerque's research, innovation, and entrepreneurship initiatives will be focused. The effort is aligned with and supports the goals of the Innovation District as proposed by the city's Livable Cities initiative. UNM has engaged Perkins & Will to develop the master plan for the former First Baptist site and more broadly the Central Avenue corridor. The master plan will make specific recommendations to the city aimed at strengthening the connection between downtown Albuquerque, UNM's main campus, and the UNM Health Sciences Center. Beyond Central Avenue, the master plan will be looking more broadly at all of the programs and institutions that will be key players in building Albuquerque's ecosystem of innovation called Innovate ABQ. Examples of some of the players and partners range from the Bioscience Center and Fat Pipe ABQ to Laguna Pueblo, and even as far as Los Alamos National Labs. Sandia National Laboratories is an important key partner in Innovate ABQ. The development of the C3 initiative at the Sandia Science and Technology Park is dedicated to expanding collaboration and commercial activities, an important goal of Innovate ABQ as well. This is the first of many reciprocal relationships that Innovate ABQ is seeking to establish throughout the city and the region. The common bottom line for all of us is to drive our innovation economy here in New Mexico. The partnership being announced today is an important step in securing the partnerships necessary for building our base of research collaboration and linkages among the many players in our entrepreneurial and overall business ecosystem, which will lead to substantial expansion of the economic activity in our unique rainforest here in New Mexico. Thank you very much.